DFL Breakdown, presented by GrizLeeGear, with your hosts, Lucas Ford and Ricky Epperson.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the DFL Breakdown, the #1 cartoon side character themed, league specific, weekly fantasy football podcast in the world. We're here. We're a little late. It's another late episode, and it's not Ricky's fault that he's not here. It's mine. Recording's a little late, but that doesn't mean we're not going to get an episode this week. I still got a lot of great football to talk about. Some crazy twists and turns in the standings, a bunch of shakeups with the way the matchups went this past week, and a lot on the line for a lot of teams in the last week of the regular season. It's December 5th. We're just starting week 14, and we got some really hot games this week to decide the rest of everyone's fate here. We have the Packers against the Lions tonight. That's a huge game with a ton of implications, both in real life and in fantasy. And yeah, just a ton of really awesome fantasy football and real football matchups to talk about. So let's get right into it here. We got a lot to get through, and I don't want to dawdle. So without further ado, let's get to our game breaker this week.
I'm coming! Here I come! Game Breaker.
All right, we had a ton of really high scores, and unfortunately for me, the real game breaker of the week would have been Jerry Jeudy, but you can see here that he was a bench warmer. So in honor of Ricky, both me unintentionally blowing him off for the recording, and in honor of him very closely getting this victory, it has to go to Brock Bowers. Jaden Daniels did technically score more, but Alex would have won if Jaden Daniels scored 0 points. So it has to be Brock Bowers for this one. Ricky needed just about all of these 30 points to get the win, and it came early on Friday. It was just a crushing performance. Brock Bowers is an animal and cannot be stopped, and he scored 30 points on the week. So game breaker goes to Ricky for this one, for Brock Bowers just having an absolutely monster game at tight end and getting him the victory this week. Let's talk a little bit more about that matchup and everyone else's matchups here in the score summary. Let's get to it.
Score Summary.
So it was a crushing defeat for me here. A 139-point performance for Ricky and a 135 for me. And yeah, Ricky walks away with the win in a large part for that Brock Bowers performance on Friday, the Black Friday game against the Chiefs. They did unfortunately lose to that crazy fumble at the end on the snap when they were in field goal range to win. The Chiefs just keep getting lucky, and it didn't matter for Ricky, though. He just had that Brock Bowers performance for him, and it really ended up helping. Davante Adams was who he chose to flex. He was waffling between him and Aaron Jones throughout the week, even Tyreek Hill. And though Tyreek Hill did end up doing a little bit better, 17 points out of Davante Adams is still a great performance. 15 out of Malik Neighbors, 28 out of Lamar Jackson. This was crazy because 10 of those points came in the last 10 seconds of the game. He broke free for a 60-yard run and then instantly threw a touchdown. And for nothing, they still lost by 5, so scoring there did just absolutely nothing for their chances, but it didn't matter. Had to do it. And yeah, he got all those points right at the end, and that really helped him out there too. But other than that, it wasn't a bunch of crazy performances at anybody else. Brock Bowers really carried him over the line there, and honestly, even though this was a big week for a lot of guys, the 135 to 139 here didn't end up being median wins for us just because of how high the league was scoring. So yeah, we both end up taking a median loss on this one, and I take the loss in the matchup. Ricky is 1-1 here, so moves to 21-5, and I move to 12-14. Drake May had a good game, even though they lost. It was very close. Saquon Barkley was great. Achan was great. Amon-Ra didn't quite do as well as I had hoped, but I really got let down by Tank Dell and by Justin Tucker, who missed an extra point. So, that's like 6 points right there. Rough to see. And yeah, I had it elsewhere. Like I said, benched Jerry Jeudy. I could have even got Jalen Warren in there and gotten those points. So it's pretty rough when, one of my favorite guys and one of the most solid kickers in history both let you down. And they definitely did this week. So it didn't mean a lot of good things for the Ballhogs moving forward. And let's see why, because there is a lot happening here, and it's not just the demise of the Ballhogs, which is causing some movement. We also had the toaster baths end the winning streak for the women in the kitchen here. 176-146. This was the highest score on the week. He put up when he needed it here. Josh Allen had a freak of nature performance where he caught a lateral from Amari Cooper, who he had thrown the ball to, thus getting a receiving touchdown on top of a passing touchdown on that play. 2 touchdowns in one play for one player in fantasy. That is straight up cheat codes. Honorary game breaker there, because he pretty much broke the scoring format. Montgomery was great. Chase Brown was great. These guys have been a rock solid duo for him in the later part of this season. Jackson Smith and Jigba had some big catches in that game. 11.9 wasn't what he was projected, but I'm sure it wasn't that far off. Lad McConkey has been fantastic. The Patriots passed up on that guy for Jalen Polk. Just saying. Said 19.7 points there. And Dallas Goedert was good. He got a touchdown, just 35 yards. They won against Baltimore, and he was a part of that, so can't complain there. Bucky Irving, the not even resurgence, the surgence of Bucky Irving. I don't know if that's a real word or not. 27.5. This guy has been going crazy in the back half. He's a rookie, and yet he had 25 carries for 152 yards with a touchdown on the ground. He even caught 3 receptions for 33 yards. He's electric. He makes people miss. He's fun to watch. And that was a crazy game between the Bucs and the Panthers, where the Bucs hung on by the skin of their teeth with some crazy stuff in overtime versus the Panthers. This season is crazy. Cade McLaughlin getting 20 points for him there as a kicker. You love to see that. Your defense getting 10, and Brian Branch 6.5. Not great, but not the worst. Like we said, highest score on the week. The Toaster Bats really putting up here and ending the run for Chris. He still scored 146 and got a median victory here. 25 points out of Joe Burrow, 21 out of Josh Jacobs. Man, Josh Jacobs made the Dolphins look foolish on Thanksgiving. Fantastic game out of him. Another just carrying performance out of Joe Mixon as well. He really is making the difference for a Texans team that honestly looks a lot worse than last year in almost every other regard other than their rushing game. So good on Joe Mixon for keeping that team relevant. We've got Drake London, who missed a big catch in this game. Had a pretty fatal drop, but still scored 17.3 points. Can't really be too upset about that in terms of fantasy there. 27 out of Terry McLaurin. Dude has been electric. Chris called his shot in the beginning of the year, and damn it, he has been right as hell. Terry McLaurin is way better than Tyreek Hill right now, and it's actually insane. And that is crazy because he scored 2 touchdowns in this one, 73 yards. He just always open, always seems to break one off. Crazy stuff. Kittle not very heavily involved in that loss against Buffalo in the snow. The 49ers are starting to look more and more like a sick joke, and George Kittle, unfortunately, was a part of that. For one of his first bust games of the whole year, he either didn't play or put up 20 points, and that was pretty much it for George Kittle so far, so 2.7 out of him is a crazy change. maybe you can blame the snow. T. Higgins, 19 points, got a touchdown on that one. You love to see it. The stack with Joe Burrow, normally a good big thing for Chris, but not enough to get him over the finish line. Does move to 19-7. I think he's locked up a bye. Might not quite be. I think he has. I think he's locked up a bye there. So it's going to be Ricky and Chris as 1-2 or 2-1, depending on how this week goes. And Lehman moves to 13-13 at a 500 record, getting the 2-0 win here. And it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up in the standings as well. Let's talk about the Goofy Goobers versus the Chiefs. This one was a kill shot to Dylan's hopes and dreams. And Nate almost doubled his score here. Second highest score on the week. Just a really nice, clean 2-0 win against Dylan's team, who didn't put up 100 points. That is rough. Rashad White has just not been good for him. And Bucky Irving is just taking his job. Baker Mayfield, only 10 points for him. He's really been just declining the last couple weeks, I think. It hasn't been as great. DK Metcalf, only 10 points. He missed a lot of receptions, it looked like. That was a tough game for them, but they did end up winning versus the Jets, but it wasn't really the DK Metcalf show. If you remember, Jackson Smith and Jigba scored more points in this matchup, so concerning for DK Metcalf. Justice Hill, 6 points. He didn't bust off another crazy touchdown run here, so you didn't get 20 points randomly out of him in this one. Tough stuff. Probably could have used it, though wouldn't have ended up meaning a whole lot. And yeah, just a lot of bad news here. The Dallas Cowboys defense did do great against the Giants. I guess that's to be expected. That Thanksgiving game was an interesting one to watch, I guess I'll say. But yeah, it didn't end up being really all that much more interesting than any of the other games of the week there. Let's just move on from that one here. On the other side, it's a stark difference. It wasn't the defense, the Vikings defense, which has been great so far. They only scored 3 points, but Boswell and TJ Watt coming back in 20 and 24 points, 44 points out of those two Steelers special team defense guys. You love to see that if you're Nate. Nico Collins just back in a big way, 119 yards, 8 receptions. He just keeps doing it. Jamar Chase just keeps doing it. He had a great touchdown in that game, 6 receptions for 86 yards. Tucker Kraft looks great since he's been back. He looked great before he left with that injury too. And he's just, still part of that game plan there. You also have Jordan Love just being consistent still, and he actually in the last few games hasn't thrown an interception. He was throwing a lot of them at the beginning of the year, but didn't quite do that in this game or the last few, and it's been really great for Nate to be able to depend on him here. Rico Dowdle also being great recently has been a big part of Nate's success. He moves to 16-10. He is confirmed in the playoffs. No one can catch him now. That's underneath 6th place. So congrats to Nate in your playoff berth. And like we said, Dylan at 10-16, the opposite record and the opposite fate. I believe he is confirmed to be out of the playoffs. Good luck in the toilet bowl, Dylan. Sorry to see you go this way. All right, let us move on to the Stroud boys versus the Dogs. This one was close all day. These guys were both over watching the games with me, and it was down to the wire, but Eric ended up pulling through and getting the 2-0 victory here, and Corey ended up getting the 0-2 loss. Patrick Mahomes was decent on Friday, 17.6, not really what you wanted to see, but a lot better than Kirk Cousins in the matchup, so you can't really fault Corey there. Najee Harris was fantastic too. That game was great for Corey, just getting 25 points out of him. He kept scoring. Corey is a huge Najee Harris fan. We found out at the watch party here, the Week 13 watch party over at my place. Corey confessed that he just loves Najee Harris, and he's a huge Najee Harris guy and can't stand Saquon Barkley for reasons unknown. He just loves Najee Harris, and I've never heard anyone call themselves a huge Najee Harris guy before in my life, so That's just a fun little fact there. Cooper Kupp really just blew it for him, though. 4.7 points. I think that was a big part of why he ended up losing this one. It was close up until that Rams game got to completion, and Cooper just really didn't do anything. Eric just kept scoring, though. I mean, 25 points out of Mike Evans. He's still having a great season. Just keeps doing his thing, even though he, missed all that time. He comes right back, and he's still Mike Evans. Like, he had an 11.8 game on his first game back. Not the craziest thing ever, but, instantly up to 25.8. He's back. He can just keep doing it. Go, Mike Evans, go. Never stop. CJ Stroud's been on the decline. The Stroud boys still rocking with him. But he's been inconsistent here. Only 17 points there. And Breece Hall with only 5 points in the game where I think he might have just pretty much single-handedly lost the game for them with that fumble at the end. I mean, there was other reasons why they lost, but if he holds onto the ball there and they score instead, like they just win the game. Yeah, so you got to feel bad if you're Breece Hall, and you got to feel bad if you're Eric for starting him. Even though you win, you're not going to be able to depend on him in some games, it seems like. But anyways, I'm getting a little sidetracked. It was a good win for Eric. He did win and does get the 2-0 victory, moving up into 5th place, I believe. We'll talk about the standings in detail here, but this 2-0 win was very important for him. Corey moving down to 9-15. I think his dreams are dead as well. This is a rough one for him here. And he could even still earn himself a bye in the toilet bowl, I think. But good luck there anyway, Corey. You will not be making it to the playoffs this year, but your team still has a lot of great producers in it. We'll see if you can just get yourself out of the toilet bowl quickly there. All right, let's move on to Alex versus Mike. Alex put the beat down on Mike here. We talked about Jaden Daniels having almost a 33-point performance. He was just great in that game versus Tennessee. Just a brutal beat down. I think the Commanders have clinched a playoff spot by now. They might be close to it. They've been pretty good, and yeah, they had a little bit of a slump. They ended it there, and this is a big thing for them. They're in the same division as the Eagles, so I don't think they've clinched anything yet, but they are getting close to it here. And Alex is definitely working his way closer and closer to a playoff spot as well. He got Bijan Robinson 25.5 points. Cortland Sutton got 16.2 in that crazy game versus Cleveland. I love Jameis Winston, man. Every game that he plays in is just a great game. And it's in large part to him. Got a lot of green scores on this team. Hunter Henry, 14.5. You just... no touchdown there for a tight end to get 14.5 just on receptions, 75 yards, 7 receptions. Great stuff there. He's one of Drake May's favorite targets. Puka Nacua, consistent. He got a touchdown as well. He is looking good as well. He's just getting a lot of volume. Even though Cooper Kupp didn't get all that much, Puka Nacua did. That's really telling as to, the direction of this offense. And maybe Cooper Kupp is just kind of falling off a little bit. We'll see if he has any more resurgent games in the rest of the year here. Bates was good. He's been pretty good. Frankie Louvu was a good start for him this week. Got 2 QB hits and a sack. 11 points there. Not much positive on Mike's side. Justin Herbert, they won that game, but, a lot of ground stuff. He didn't really throw any touchdowns or anything, so you hate to see that. Tony Pollard was somewhat disappointing in that brutal beatdown from the Commanders that we talked about. Kenneth Walker, not super involved in that win for the Seahawks. Zach Charbonnet was the one actually running touchdowns in at the goal line. That hurt for Kenneth Walker there. Zay Flowers didn't get a lot done in that game that they lost versus the Eagles. Justin Jefferson was good. Xavier Worthy was good. But, yeah, everyone else was just bad. 0 points out of Kyle Pitts. Never change, Kyle Pitts. It's just more par for the course, Kyle Pitts there. Okay, let's talk about George Droid versus Bill Cosby's Sleepers. This one came all the way down to the end, not to see only if he would win, but if Riley would get a median win. He did end up getting it here, moving to 17-9. I believe he can still catch Chris, actually. So I don't know that Chris does have that bye locked up. If Chris goes 0-2 this week, we'll get to the standings after, but it could mean a disaster for him here. Jalen Hurts, 19 points, nothing special, but not terrible. Christian McCaffrey blew his knee out and is done for the season after only playing like 2 games. Riley already dropped him. It's really over for Christian McCaffrey. Feels bad. Jordan Mason also got injured in that game, so there was a national go get Isaac Guerrero fever that broke out, and we'll see who ended up getting him this week for us here. But Christian McCaffrey, toast. We've got Alvin Kamara, who got 16 points. That was pretty good for him there. DJ Moore got 24. He finally started him after trading for him. CeeDee Lamb only got 6 points, 2 receptions in the Thanksgiving game. He just stopped playing. I don't remember what specifically happened, but yeah, he didn't end up doing anything in that game. TJ Hawkinson wasn't really great for him either, but Brian Robinson, I think the Commanders had 250 rush yards in the first half or something. It was insane. They had I don't know if it was the first half or not. Maybe it was the whole game. But crazy stuff out of them. And Brian Robinson was a huge benefactor of that. And then 2 pick sixes for Denver in that wild game. Like I said, Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns versus Denver. Jameis, after the game, said, "Lord, deliver me from these pick sixes." He is praying for them to end, but not so much in this game. They got 3 interceptions. Yeah, and 2 of them returned for touchdowns. Really rough stuff for him there, and that was the difference in that Broncos versus Browns matchup. And that was the Monday night game. It was a wild game, but Riley, a big benefactor of that, getting over the median, 143 points for him, gets 2 wins, and already just not quite getting there. 29.2 out of Tua. He's actually looked good despite not really winning or anything in fantasy. It's he's still actually been startable, and that's cool. Jonathan Taylor got 16.3, but only 2 out of Chuba Hubbard, only 11 out of A.J. Brown, 23 out of Adam Thielen. You love to see it. He's just still doing it. That's crazy. He's awesome. Yeah, we got Travis Kelce, 13.8. That's fine out of Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews, 18.9. This double tight end thing, it almost worked out for him, but not quite. Jake Moody, only 2.3. Eagles defense, 5. Devon Witherspoon, 5. That is a rough loss right at the bottom of your lineup, and then Chuba Hubbard really letting you down as well. Definitely leads to this sort of loss. 128 is a win in past years, but in this year with the defense, with everything happening, 128 just ain't enough to cut it, ain't enough to even get to the median. 0-2 loss for Bill Cosby's Sleepers, staying at the bottom of the leaderboards with Mike here. Nice 2-0 victory for George Droid. Okay, that's all of the matchups for the week. A lot of crazy stuff happening there. Let's talk about the efficiency real quick. Like I said, I benched the potential game breaker that leads to this giant gray bar behind my name here. Could have been one of the higher scores of the week, but very inefficient roster management ends you towards the bottom of this graph here. This is what happens. I am being punished for it. We got a lot of good stuff towards the top. Really efficient management out of Nate and Alex, getting them their wins. And it looks like Lehman could have thrown whoever he wanted in and ended up winning this week. He was just meant to win. All right, let's talk about these long-awaited standings here. We've got a lot of movement. Eric moving up a spot, Alex moving up a spot, Lehman moving up a spot, and me moving down 3 spots here to this really unfortunate loss that... Man, it hurts to look at. We got Perfect Cell, Ricky in first, 21-5, followed by Chris at 19-7. This is why he's still catchable here. It's because George Droid is in third at 17-9. If he gets the 2-0 this week and Chris gets the 0-2, then these positions, well, they couldn't really be swapped. Riley would really have to score like 200 more points than Chris this week. So while it's not officially locked in, I mean, Chris would have to start no one, and Riley would have to have a record-breaking week. So I'm going to go ahead and call it now. Chris is going to end up securing that first round bye as well this week. Really, he could even get the number 1 seed if Ricky drops 2 games as well. But let's move to 4th place. He's at 16-10. Nate is the Goofy Goobers. He's been winning as well, and like I said, he has secured a playoff spot because no one lower than 6 can catch that record here. No one's getting 16 wins with only 2 more left on the table besides Eric, and them swapping wouldn't mean he's out of the playoffs. I'm over-explaining it, and that's fine. We've got Eric in 5th place, 14-12. And then Alex in 6th place at 13-13. Here's where it gets interesting. Lehman is also at 13-13. He's in 7th place, and I'm in 8th place at 12-14. Because there's 2 games on the table, there's still 2 more wins or 2 more losses available to any of us here. And that means this 5th and 6th spot is still up for grabs. And the most interesting part about this here is it looks like next week Alex and Eric are going to be squaring off against each other. So this spot is still wide open. Either myself or Lehman could slip in, or these 2 guys with a median win and losses from the Toaster Bats and the Ballhogs could end up securing their spots even though they're playing against each other. So like I said, a ton on the line this week, still a ton of movement happening. To lose 3 spots in week 13 really hurts for the Ballhogs, but it's not over yet. And I have a lot of points scored, which will help me in the long run here. If Eric drops 2 games here and I win 2 and we were tied, I would even end up going over him. So Eric can still drop all the way to 7th or 8th, depending on what ends up happening here. So that's a crazy 1 week swing as well. Dylan in 9th, like I said, eliminated at 10-16, just can't quite get to the line. There's 3 wins separating him from 6th place and only 2 left on the board. So Dylan is eliminated here. In 9th place, we've got Corey in 10th place at 9-17, and then the Sleepers and the Perverts at 6-20 in 11th and 12th place. And Mike with the lowest points scored in the league by a pretty wide margin, and almost the most points against as well. Mike is just getting slammed every week, and that is unfortunate for him. Sorry about that, buddy. Better luck next year, and better luck in the toilet bowl. All right, let's get down to the wire real quick. We'll talk about what happened with some moves. I kind of teased the Garendo thing happening, and then we'll talk about next week's matchups and their implications. Let's get to it.
Waiver wire and trades.
Okay, we have Isaac Garendo right at the top going to Dylan. Lehman also put a claim in for him, but Dylan ended up getting him. Way to go, Dylan. Yeah, you got him, man. You are going to be able to use him for the rest of the season and hopefully in the toilet bowl for you to dig yourself out of there. I love to see you still making moves and getting stuff done. We've got Alex getting Jake Ferguson, swapping out Will Dissly. Doesn't like his matchup. I believe the Chargers are playing the Chiefs this week, if I remember correctly. So Alex does not want to be a part of it. Jake Ferguson was on the wire, and Alex wanted to grab him. So there he goes. N'Kobe Dean going to Riley this week for his defensive player. We've got Chris changing Wan'Dale Robinson out for the Philadelphia defensive end. I don't remember his first name offhand here, but it's Sweat is his last name. And we've got some little moves here for some defensives being swapped out and stuff. Ricky picking up the Saints defense, Alex picking up the Dolphins defense. And then we got Mike Gesicki going to Lehman as well here. And then a linebacker swap out for Alex as well. I think that was just about it. I believe Nick Westbrook-Ikine was picked up. Might have been by Nate or something like that. I don't quite remember. But we'll see if he ends up making a roster this week here. And then I know Ricky also ended up dropping Tank Bigsby and picking up a kicker this week as well here. So when we look at his lineup, we'll see who that kicker is. But let's get to those lineups. Let's get to the projection preview and find out exactly what's going to happen in this regular season finale of the Dimmadome 2024.
Projection preview.
All right, so let's take a look here at the games that we talked about already. We have Alex versus Eric right here, and something tells me that things are going poorly for Alex's projections. 28% for him there. That's rough stuff. He's missing a tight end, a defense, and an IDP. He's got a lot of people on bye. He did just pick up Jake Ferguson and his defense and his defensive player, so we can add another, what is this, 27 points, something like that, to his projections there. So it's like 115 to 113 actually, which would mean this is pretty even for projections here. He's got Russell Wilson filling in for Jaden Daniels. Russell Wilson's been electric, and every game with Jameis Winston in it has been fun. So we'll see if this Cleveland versus Steelers rematch is just as entertaining as that first one was in the Snow Globe game just a few weeks ago. We've got Bijan Robinson versus the Vikings. That looks like a good matchup for him. But, yeah, Amir Abdullah only being projected 3.6. I think Madison is back. They might be splitting more work. Sincere McCormick has looked good for them as well. So we'll see if he ends up trying to start anybody else. I don't know that he has any other options, though. So that is really rough for him unless he drops someone like Ramondre Stevenson. And then what? I don't know. Picks up somebody else. There might not be anybody else available. So rough stuff for Alex there, whereas Eric has his healthy running back core. We'll see if they actually get what they're projected to get. James Cook has been good as of late, but he does have those games where he tends to drop off. And Breece Hall, like we talked about, only had 5 points. That is disappointing out of your running back one, your number one draft pick here. Eric's also got Aaron Rodgers going this week because CJ Stroud is on bye. This is a terrible bye week for both of these guys, it looks like. So we'll see who ends up pulling through. Eric still has his duo of wide receiver and tight end from the Bucs. They are playing this week, and they're playing versus Vegas. So we'll see if that ends up being a big game for him. He also has Jacoby Myers from that game as well. So we'll see if that game ends up being high scoring. He still hasn't swapped out Kaimi Fairbairn, so he could get some more kicker points in his projections. But that would mean he has to drop one of his players, and I don't know that he wants to do that right now. Zach Charbonnet, Evan Ingram, he's probably going to do it very late. If he does, move Kaimi Fairbairn. So Charbonnet can't be picked up against him this week by Alex or something like that. God, that is a rough spot. You don't really want to give up Kaimi Fairbairn. He's like one of the highest scoring players in general, especially in our league this year. So you can't just let go of him. Look at this production. I mean, 27, 12, 17, 12, 11, 18, 10, 14, 18. This is what you dream of. So, like, you never just drop Kaimi Fairbairn. I don't know. And it's for the season, folks. Either one of these guys take an 0-2 here, it almost certainly means they're missing the playoffs. So, God, everything on the line. Tough to make these choices. I don't even know what you do if you're Eric there. And Alex, I wish you best of luck with your Amir Abdullah start. Hopefully he gets a random touchdown or something if you're trying to win that one here. Okay, let's talk about some more matchups for people that are right on the verge. We've got the Toaster Bats versus the Goofy Goobers. A playoff preview. If Lehman wants to be a contender and stand a chance and make his way from last place to the playoffs, this is a big a test as any one of our perennial playoff players and a high scorer this year as well. He's favored, Nate is, but only slightly versus the Toaster Bats, 130 to 129. And it's for all the marbles for Lehman. It's win and possibly get in for him here, depending on how the matchup goes between Eric and Alex. Josh Allen is playing. David Montgomery's in. Chase Brown in. All these guys rock solid in his lineup. No bye weeks for them. JSN in. Khalil Shakir, he's going as well. Bucky Irving, resurgent, like I said, Surgent just in general. Man, he has been great. I follow an account on Twitter called I Love Bucky Irving, and it just posts Bucky Irving memes all the time. God, they're classic. They're all great. Bucky Irving's great. Let's go Bucky Irving. This is a full-strength Toaster Bass team in Week 14. He's making choices on who he does and doesn't want to start, like... he's got Marvin Harrison on the bench, Ladd McConkey, DeAndre Hopkins. Good God. This is scary stuff. I wouldn't want to be making these choices either. Get rid of him, Nate. Get rid of him. Do your job. Rico Dowdle needs to doodle bob on them. Kyron Williams. God, prove me wrong, Kyron Williams. Get it going. Please, Jamar Chase, please. You can do it too versus the Cowboys. The Cowboys suck. Please get it going versus the Cowboys. Win a game. I know you guys want to win. Devonta Smith, is he going to play versus the Panthers? We'll see. God, I am not biased at all, by the way. The Vikings defense versus Atlanta. Kirk Cousins just threw 4 interceptions in the last game. We'll see if he does that this game. He's not playing Jared Goff tonight. Well, he is playing Jordan Love tonight. He's playing his quarterback tonight. We're going to see what happens tonight, whether it's Jordan Love or Jared Goff. It looks like Jordan Love is getting the nod for now here. Should be very interesting stuff. Tucker Kraft also going tonight as well. Anything else going? Brian Branch and David Montgomery. A lot of key pieces for this one tonight, so I'm going to be watching closely. Okay, let's move on from that exciting matchup to another one with a ton of playoff implications, at least for me. I can't wait to talk about it any longer because we have been talking about it. It's the Ballhogs at 12-14 looking to get a win versus the team that is tied for last place right now. Jonathan Taylor is on bye. Mark Andrews is on bye. We'll see if he ends up filling those guys in with some other options here. But as for now, I'm obviously projected a lot more. But I also have some people to fill in as well. Will Levis is in for Drake May, who's on bye. Tank Dell is on bye. So I do have Jerry Jeudy in with Brian Thomas. Though Brian Thomas, it's iffy with him. He has Mac Jones thrown to him again. I hope he's still good there. Yeah, you see I got a lot of bye stuff going down here. I'm putting the Bengals in versus the Cowboys. I hope that ends up being good. I could put the Chiefs in versus the Chargers, but even though they're projecting more, I don't really like it. I know the Bengals defense has been bad too, but we'll see. We'll see if CeeDee Lamb is even playing, and if Cooper Rush does anything good versus the Bungles here. I have them named the Bungles. I know what I'm getting into, but I hope it works out. Justin Tucker's also gone. Cameron Dicker is in. Dicker, the kicker, has been good for many people. Please be good for me. Go Ballhogs. Yeah, Hardy has Tua going versus the Jets. That's a divisional matchup for them. I think the Dolphins still somewhat have playoff aspirations here, so they're still trying to win. Not that the Jets aren't trying to win, but it probably means more for Tua. Aaron Rodgers may be playing for his job in his career in the NFL and maybe even his Hall of Fame spot with the way he's been playing. But Chuba going, like we said, no Jonathan Taylor. Chuba was bad last game, and now he's playing against Philly's stout defense. That's pretty interesting stuff. He's also got Philly's defense versus Carolina, so we'll see how that ends up playing. Man, yeah, he's got Thielen too, so either Thielen and Hubbard don't go, and the defense is good, or they do go off and the defense is bad. I feel like that ends up capping his ceiling a little bit, but who am I to judge? He's got Carolina opponent A.J. Brown as well. It's traditionally been a soft matchup for wide receivers, but they've been making games close as of late, so we'll see if that ends up working out for him. We already talked about the Chiefs playing against the Chargers. That is happening Sunday night. Travis Kelce will be at that game, and I'm sure Taylor Swift will be there as well. We got Jacob Moody going versus the Bears. And Devon Witherspoon, his waiver pickup for defense. He's subbing out Nick Bosa. He has lost all faith in all of his 49ers and is just trying to move on from them here. Well, really just Bosa, I guess. I was thinking of Riley, who's lost faith in his 49ers. But let's go ahead and talk about we can talk about Riley's matchup too. He's playing against Ricky, and also another playoff preview here. They're projected to be somewhat close. Not a ton of bye weeks this week for these guys, but two very important ones for Ricky, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. He's going to have to go with Kyler, and he's got Aaron Jones fired up here. He's got Tyreek Hill in as well. Brock Bowers, Malik Neighbors, Garrett Wilson are his starts. That means that we have Devontae Adams riding the pine, and Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson are his two bench guys here that he's just kind of taking flyers on and hoping that maybe they pan out at running back as well. Buda Baker in as his defensive guy here. We've got the New Orleans defense versus the Giants, and that should be a great matchup for them. This is all looking to be good stuff, and he has Jahmyr Gibbs going tonight versus the Packers. Jahmyr Gibbs has been electric. He did get the rings knocked out of him in that game on Thanksgiving and fumbled the ball near the goal line, which was pretty unfortunate for the Lions, but they ended up winning, so it didn't really end up mattering all that much, and Ricky ended up winning as well. So that is that there. Let's see. We've got, Jalen Hurts versus Carolina. We talked about that matchup a little bit, but Jalen Hurts is apt to just rush a touchdown or two in himself. Tyrone Tracy versus New Orleans. That's a big matchup for these two guys because he's got the New Orleans defense, so his success also means negative things for Ricky in both ways there. Alvin Kamara is also in that game, so that's going to be a big one for these guys in general here, as well as Malik Neighbors being there too. So very, very impactful. DJ Moore going Sunday afternoon versus San Francisco. We don't have any other pieces of those games in this one here. But he does have CeeDee Lamb going as well. He's carrying that questionable tag. Has there been any updates on him? Officially, no practice on Thursday. Okay, well, that's not very helpful for anyone making a decision about him. TJ Hawkinson versus Atlanta at home. Maybe a comeback game for him of sorts after having somewhat of a weak one last week. Darnell Mooney is back as well, so that matchup just is big in general for Riley here for his success against Ricky. These two guys have been talking shit about each other all week, all year, very close in the standings all year, and they got a lot of unfinished business, so it's cool to see them face off one more time for the playoffs, make a statement here. They're both locked in, but they want to show that they should be feared. So we'll see who ends up coming out on top in this heavyweight matchup this week. Okay, let's take a look now. We talked about these two matchups. Let's take a look at a lower end matchup here. The Dogs versus the Perverts. Playing for pride here, trying to get better positioning in the standings. Though I believe at this point, Artie and Mike might just be locked into bye weeks in the in the toilet bowl, so that is rough stuff, but we'll see if he does end up swapping out Zay Flowers and the Baltimore defense for a couple other guys. I hope he does. Corey, on the other hand, he is trying to, I guess, play for better positioning. He's got Patrick Mahomes and Najee Harris going. He's got DeAndre Swift, Cooper Kupp, Jaden Reed and Sam Laporta playing tonight. He has the New England defense that's on bye, but he should be able to swap that out as well. I wouldn't really make any changes either. It's not like you can't depend on these guys, and he doesn't really have better options down here. I might be tempted to swap DeAndre Swift and Nick Chubb, but Nick Chubb hasn't been that great this year, so we'll see if he ends up sticking with Swift. I think he really likes Swift, so I think he's going to stick with him as well. He had him last year, too, while he was on the Eagles. Corey's a big fan of that. I think he just likes DeAndre Swift. He just randomly likes weird players. Okay, and let's get to our last guy here. It's got Chris versus Dylan. This is a matchup for Chris where he's still trying to get that top spot, and Dylan is still trying to keep his pride intact as well. He's got Isaac Correndo. I already forgot. Isaac Correndo. He is playing for him this week. I mean, he looked good. Every time he's gotten the ball, he's looked good, and now he's got a ton of opportunity, and it's a scheme that works, and the Bears defense is tough, but he should have good volume, so we'll see if he can still do it. Rachaad White, somewhat disappointing recently, but the team does still use him, so he can always score a touchdown, and if he's not getting him on the ground, he might be getting him through the air with Baker Mayfield, so we'll see if him and even DK Metcalf can kind of get it together. DK Metcalf has been having a questionable tag every week ever since he had that injury, but he seemed to be playing in all those games. And this is a divisional matchup versus the Cardinals. That means a ton to both teams, so we'll see if... this is the rematch between DK Metcalf and Budda Baker. I think they've met on the field again since that interception that DK ran him down on, but people still remember it fondly, and I'm sure Budda Baker doesn't remember it as fondly there, but then again, it was a big interception for him, so who knows. Jalen Waddle, he's going versus the Jets. We talked about that game being an important divisional matchup there. Noah Gray versus the Chargers. That ended up being a great choice for him last week. That might have even been the waiver warrior, and I didn't call for one this 9.8? Maybe not. I didn't pay attention enough to know who the waiver warrior was, if there even was one, so no waiver warrior this week. You guys are getting robbed. Haha, no waiver warrior. Anyway, we've got Grippy, Kicky with the Grippy going in that same Saints versus Giants matchup. We'll see how good he does there. And then the Dallas defense still going versus the Bengals. Ooh, that is a matchup that is interesting to want to bet on. Chris still has Joe Mixon in, so he's got to get him changed out for a different running back. Kareem Hunt possibly, or maybe he moves something around in his flex. No, he's flexing Jonnu Smith, so I don't think he's got a ton of options there. But Drake London and T. Higgins going, they have been nothing but solid for him when they do get to play. And Josh Jacobs going tonight, so we'll see what ends up happening in this matchup. Inconsequential for the playoff race maybe, but playing for positioning, I guess, for Chris, and we'll see if he can bounce back and have a win after that humiliating loss to the Toaster Baths. All right, that is all of our matchups this week, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, a ton on the line. I'm really hoping for the Ballhogs to come out with a playoff spot for the first time in 4 years. That would be really cool. Knock on wood. But good luck to everybody, regardless. And I hope you enjoy the game tonight. It should be a great one. Packers-Lions. And I did want to say thanks again for everyone to tuning in. See you next week. Same time, same place. Love you all. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the DFL Breakdown. Tune in next week for more.